Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. As Bidnoji has reminded us, this is the open discussion day or Sunday. So there's an hour and a half time. And any question you have should not be, left not addressed. So please come up and ask your questions or put them in the chat. I've also shared the links for all the previous rooms, including the open discussion and the ongoing sessions on Bhagavad Gita, the earlier sessions on Avaroksha and the Upanishads, which Bindoji has kindly offered through his lectures in Clubhouse. They're all archived. One, you can find it in Clubhouse as replays, or you can go to the YouTube channel called Advaita Retold, which is a very well organized YouTube channel where you can access different chapters within the series. And then you can go also to Apple and Spotify if you want to listen to it. There is also a book titled The Imaginary Door, which is a concise and writing from Artemisia's interpretation or words of Bendoji's insights into Advaita. And so, as a continuity, on Monday we will restart Bhagavad Gita at 8:30 p.m. IST. So, if you're interested in joining for that, you can always listen to the previous replay and come and join. But today is open discussion, so the channels are open. So, if you have any questions, please come up or put them in the chat. As always, thank you, Binduji.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you and welcome to all of you. SK, you have changed your name to Adra.
Namaste, Artemisia.
Namaste, Prakash. Hari Om
Namaste,
Jinro.
Atmishya.
Thought I'd come and see what you're discussing.
Sorry, Atmishya, what you were saying? I was replying to
I
a
just said
message.
I thought I'd come and see what the discussion would be today.
Well, we can start it.
Okay, shall I ask a question, Binduji?
Yeah,
Yes.
Prakash, you were waiting for Sunday to come, no? For asking all the questions you have gathered during the week. You
Yes,
can go ahead.
because yeah. So you remember, the parampara, the lineage, right?
Hmm.
And how this the clarity of this transmission between the Guru Sishya is maintained. But you began by giving some foundational structures to it, like the Vivaswan, the sun god, and then Manu, then Ikshvaku, and the rishis, right?
Hmm.
So in that lineage, is it in a pedagogical framework? It is only a framework in the beginning, or does it um, towards Jivan Mukti or in the Jnanagni? Are these frameworks still held within a context, or do they dissolve? This is the question I had. One of the questions.
See, the pedagogical lineage is what it is always being maintained. And in that, the transmission is not the way in which we see the education system in today, in the modern educational system. There it is a living together. And in the living together, for example, you can make out a difference between even today, the education in an institution where the child goes from morning and then spends some time and comes back to the house. There is a set of method of teaching. There is a different set of teaching without calling it as a teaching. The child learns from a toddler onwards till he becomes an adult at the family level. Now, when you look at the family level of education, it is not a systematic one like the institutional one, but what child imbibes from the family, unknowingly, it becomes part and parcel of the child as a character, as a faith, or a belief, or values and systems like that. Whereas what is studied in an institution, more of a theoretical and practical aspect, that doesn't last long because once you leave the institution, the application of what all you have learned in the institution doesn't come to you instantaneously when it is called for unless you are working in that field. So what happens, a lot of things what we have studied in the institution has buried and have no value for us today. But we have spent a lot of our time in picking up things which are not going to be useful in the future. Whereas what has been picked up in the family values or family method of education, even if it is not required every day or every moment of it, when a need arises, like a lighthouse, that instruction from the family value shows that, you know, the path for the individual to take his decision and move forward. So you saw the two methods of different methods of education, or what we call it as in a methodology called the Gurukula system in those days, and a typical education which is today's world. Those days, the technical education or the systematic education in the schools were not there. So living together in the guru's place as part of the family or the society in the Gurukula, what all he has picked up, depending upon his qualification or as a student, whether he is qualifying for the rituals or whether he is qualifying for the metaphysical values or beliefs and inquiries, etc. Or he may be a ordinary service-oriented person by arranging the cleanliness of the ashram or gurukula or bringing firewood, rearing the cows or the cattle and everything. But all of them are treated equally by the society or the family or the education system there. So the value, even the person who is not qualified is exposed to that values. But depending upon his capacity, he will not be able to make use of the values fully. So when we talk about Vivaswan, Chagu and Manu, etc., it is this method of transmitting the values which has been taking place. And even today, the universities which are teaching Advaita or Vedanta or Mimamsa are not lasting long. They are used and then they are forgotten, or they, unless the person picks up a teaching profession in the same line, that if he comes out and does some other job in a government job or a clerical job or some other job, all what he has learned in the institution is lost. This is why even today, in spite of all the onslaughts of invasion, conversion, and subversion, all type of things which had happened, these shastra and the teaching of the shastras are very well maintained, retained, and transmitted in India. Today also you will get all the means of, you know, the Mimamsa method or Nyaya, Tarka, Sankhya, all of them are still available. Why? Because even today there are, you know, not in, I won't call it as institutions, but arrangements. Those who value this Gurukula system maintain, you know, a ambience where the interested parties can go, stay with the teacher and learn it. And when you do that, the value or the depth with which you get imbibed into that system is much long lasting. That is where the difference comes between the pedagogical method which has been used in India for transmission of the values and the modern, what you call, westernized education.
Yes, thank you, Binduji. So the just to slightly deviate from the main Advaita, because if you look at the modern interpretation of what is mind and awareness and how one approaches that in the early part of their learning, in the first 2 decades, what would you see as the hindrances that are arising that prevents them from accessing those uh, the perennial wisdoms?
See,
What are the hindrances?
what happens in the system is that you are not only taught you know the intricacies of the shastra or the methods, but you are also asked to live it when you are studying it in the Indian, typical Indian old system which was prevalent. I myself found that my learning when I studied between 73 to 78, it didn't give me that depth and what you call knowledge which I would have gathered it, even though I had attended almost all lectures by Swami Chinmayananda and others. But my 2.5 years of residing in the ashram as a brahmachari before marriage and then studying and practicing what I'm studying gave me a foundation based on which I could build it up further, which made my conviction more and more what you call forceful and strong. That is what I am talking about. That and the where the hindrance comes is that depends upon your, I will call, vasanas or innate tendencies. Even there are my colleagues or what do you call co-students who studied in the ashram. There they have left the ashram and have not picked up the methodology of enquiries of Shravana Manana Vidhyasana themselves because they were not interested. They came to the ashram with the initial thrill of it, but they themselves were not qualified students or they were not prepared for it mentally. So when they went out, they could not sustain that enquiry method and follow it. So most of the time the hindrance comes from not from outside alone. Mostly it is from inside. The outside hindrances are only instrumental in diverting our own attention towards that.
Thank you, Binduji. One more question in that string is, the role, because in the parampara, the Ishvara, and you, in a very detailed and very meticulously defined the discerning aspects of Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva with Janmas and Ishvara with avatars. And that aspect of the Jiva and the Ishvara. So the question I have is, in the parampara, the role of Guru and Ishvara, in your own experience, or how that is pedagogically appropriated to facilitate the student's journey. I want to hear from you, Smitaji.
See, even though traditionally Guru is seen as a Murti Vidvadivan, means the embodiment is different from Ishvara and the Guru. But as far as the values, both of them, or the purpose for both of them are more or less the same. Their methodology is maybe different, but their direction of transmission of the truth is in the pedagogical line, whereas the Ishvara or the Avatara doesn't happen every now and then. Whereas a Guru is present whenever you are ready for it. You will come across with a Guru the moment the earnestness with which the inner individuality, that is from our Mano Buddhi Ahankara, that aspect should have the earning or the desire to such an extent that I need to somehow or other have this knowledge. That is the time the Guru will appear in, in the human form to guide you. It may be not a Gurukula type of a system. It can be even a dialogue where you get the hints and get the direction based on which you will start your journey, and then you will move towards the learning and pick up more and more in your path. So it is not that a guru is not a person who will be always there to guide you and take you through. He is the one who sets you into the right track. When like a person who is lost in a multi-directional junction, you want to know which direction if you go you will reach your destination. He is like a nameplate or a person who can guide you. If there is no nameplate, you will have to ask somebody and he will tell you which direction you have to go. Same way, in this path of spirituality, when your questions are genuine and earnest, the person who gives you the direction for that is your guru, and he may not follow you, and that is not that the guru has to come with you all the time to guide you or correct you. He has given the direction, and then thereafter the inner direction, inner compass, which we call it as, is the one which will keep you in the same path. There you will acquire more and more exposure to the teachings, and you will gather more and more knowledge. And this way we will do till our body falls dead, the learning. And learning can never be said that I am completely studied anything. No, nobody can claim that. Everyone learns every breath. That is why the Pratibodha Viditam is also equally important from this aspect. That is the time when we know that every experience of mine is the teacher from within myself who is teaching me and giving me the exposure.
Thank you very much, Binduji. I will leave the stage for others to come up. There's many in the audience. Thank you all for coming. Please come up or put your questions in the chat and let's continue this dialogue or discussion with Binduji. But if there is nobody coming up, I have one more follow-up question which pertains to the chapter 4, Binduji,
Go ahead.
which is, we started with karma vichara,
Hmm.
and then right now you're addressing the jnanagni.
I'm not at reach. Janakti is going to come
Yeah,
33rd verse onwards.
yes, coming, yes. So in this context of what we talked about in terms of how the Guru Sishya relationship, and I'm curious to find out more about the transition between the you gave us a lot of beautiful steps of how the karma vichara and then the yajna and then the concept of jnanagni. You have already hinted at it. So how does that uh, play out in the gurukula over a period of time?
Actually speaking, Bhagavad Gita, the way in which it is progressing for what we are going through, is exactly how in a Gurukula, a system where the Guru and the disciple will be having dialogue and learning. Here the Guru is Krishna and the disciple is Arjuna. And you will find that Arjuna is asking a question only when he is in a confusion about what is between the two, what is the clarity he requires. Otherwise, most of the time, it is a monologue by Krishna giving step by step procedures or methodologies and you know key instructions to watch out for what is the precautions to be done, what is the you know end goal by doing that. If you don't do it, what will happen? These are the method in which a Gurukula also, the Guru also teaches in a Gurukula. And a student has to do a lot of Shravana and Manana on that. When he gets into a state of both seems to be right, which is better for me? Because your own inner orientation is difficult for us to make out. We do not have the capacity to know our own orientation from within, even though we think we know it is our tendencies and vasanas, etc. But we do not know what is that. But a guru, when he is observing the disciple, he has seen the tendencies of the disciple being played out by the various actions done by the student. So from that point of view, the guru has definite, you know, understanding the caliber of each of the students who are staying with him and studying. And he, having understood the vasanas being played out or the innate tendencies which are being played out in the student's character, in the behavior, he will also, the guru also will give him the required activities and teachings which will help him to sublimate those vasanas and make it more qualified or chitta shuddhi to aspect of so that the knowledge can take place. Some people need menial job, work hard and all those things because they are highly rajasic in nature. Then there will be tamasic people whom, he is not neglected. Even for him, the the type of job which is given is more sedentary type of a work rather than an activity based work. But those who are a sattvic type of a student, the teaching will be more of metaphysical in nature. So the guru will be able to identify the potency of the students and guide according to that. So this is what exactly Gita is also doing in our case. Is the questions which Arjuna is asking is understand is the question which will naturally come to our own mind also. So that is why where the karma vichara to then the methodology of what are the type of dharma samstavanartaya, what are the things to be done. All those steps are come stage by stage, and now we have defined what is a jivan mukta. Now even a jivan mukta, whether the actions for a jivan mukta is advised or not advised, or he does work or he doesn't work, that also has been defined now. Then Krishna is now going to move to the next 10 verses. The actions of a jivan mukta, how does it become a yajna, which is different from the yajna of a rajasic person who has a desire for fruits of action. These two are entirely different. That is why these stages are being developed in such a way that when you come to the stage where you have taken a birth for the purpose of the maintaining of the dharma, still you seems to be working in this world, which Arjuna was told by Krishna himself. And that action of Krishna is also a yajna. Even though he is an avatara, he is, by example, he is showing that even those actions will become yajnartham. Yajnartham means it is not that the benefit of the yajna will go to the performer of it, because he is akarta. He is not a he is a non-doer. And then when he is a non-doer, there is no yajna result going to lepa or taint him or affect him. That is exactly what will make us more understandable that how some people are working tirelessly, yet they don't feel dejected or depressed if the fruits of actions are not favorable. They have still got the energy and enthusiasm to work, and they continue to perform in their own way. These are all the examples which we will see in the coming verses. So it is by example, Krishna is giving us these teachings.
Yes, thank you, Binduji. Uh, so in the current status of, especially in our environment, so the best way to engage is to be involved in Shravana Manana in a very consistent manner, Binduji.
Yes, Shravana Manana and Nididhyasana can never be neglected if you are serious on the path. But if you are a casual listener, I, it will not do any good because you are not continuously doing the Shravana. So the Shravana Manana will have only that much effect of it. The
Yes,
standard saying in the Shastra is that Asukte Amrutam Kalam. Vedanta Chintanam Kuryat. Asupte means until you fall asleep. Amrute means until you fall dead. Both these cases and both these are the limitations. Till then, you have to continuously do the Vedanta Shravanam. Vedanta Chintanam means that is Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasana, all three together. You have to continue to do that. Every day before, till you sleep, your thoughts should be in this direction. While you may be at doing your daily routine, people will immediately ask you, then though should we not go to office, work, everything. That's office working, going, doing our day-to-day work doesn't stop us from thinking, isn't it? Our thinking is always with us, wherever we are there. We can be always thinking whenever we are in this. And when the Upanishad says that every experience is teaching you the reality of awareness or consciousness as the fundamental substratum of everything, it doesn't say that you should not have experience, concentrate only on the awareness. No. In and every action, through and through, it is giving us the opportunity to know the reality. So that is why we should be able to do this Shravana Manana Nididhyasana in all our activities. But the thing is that people compartmentalize and think that only if we talk about Upanishad or Gita or Brahma Sutra, we are talking about Advaita. No, Advaita is in every breath of our living. It proves us that there's only one reality for all of us. And we are living that, we are breathing that, and we are experiencing that. That is the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana in action.
Yes, thank you very much, Binduji. Looks like everybody is content today. There's nobody coming up.
Yeah, I'm ready to close the room if nobody is there.
Mother is coming up.
Namaste, Madhu.
Namaste, Vinodji and everyone. Um, yeah, I wanted to, I don't know if it is appropriate, but not.
Nothing is
Um,
inappropriate.
yeah. So the question I last time was asking you about um, and Krishna is talking about in the epistemic requirement that you will have to go all the way back to the root of the observation itself. So there, I did ask last time the question. I wanted to, um, I was not satisfied, or that's my approach, that um, the epistemic honesty would never show me that my body is at fault. There is no way I can see my body at fault or creating trouble in my life. So uh, I think my question, it's not even a question, it's more pondering. Where when I look at something, I have identification. Now the question is, what exactly I am identifying with? What is it that I can identify from the first person alone? And if we honestly do that, we can only see Kriya, means we can only see Kriya. I cannot see the karma of the other. I am talking in the sense karma has mix of intention and action. trying to get a result or whatever. So that I'm calling it karma, and kriya is just like, somebody moving, somebody hitting somebody, whatever. So the only thing I can know in the world from my first person identification with or using all my senses will be kriya. And now, uh, in order to say that the body is doing it, I have to give a role to the body as a body, not me, but as a third party thing. And this is possible, but I don't know why this is advised. I have a huge problem with it because I don't know how to even do this in the first person point of view. Maybe educationally, maybe it's all required, but my question is not about how to educate others. So I would like to have a kind of a discussion here. What are we identifying? Thank you.
Martin, it, this there are different methodologies which are up- given in the Shastra for this first person identifying technique. One thing which undeniably we all agree will be the subjectivity we have as the first person and vis-a-vis objective nature of everything what can be known. What we call it as the drik and the drishya. Drik is the one, the seer, and drishya is the objects. The objects doesn't mean physical objects alone. Anything that becomes a content for our knowledge or thought is an object. It can be emotions, feelings, thoughts, objects, or memories. Anything which is we know we are thinking about. There is a content in it. The content definitely is not you because you are aware that there is a content in the thought of yours or in our process of knowledge of awareness or whatever may be the aspect of it, knowing it. So whatever can be known and it is not you should be definitely removed from the first person aspect of it. When you keep doing it, you will come to your sense organ, your physical body. Even your physical body is a content known to you as my body. It is not that I am the body. My body, my hands, my legs, my eyes, my ears, everything is mine because I can see or know them as objects. Because why? Independent of my being, that when it is deprived from my body does not reduce my beingness or my own entity. If my hand is amputated, I may have a handicapped situation as far as the activities are concerned. But the sense that I am Bindo without my stomach now, it's a fact. I don't have a stomach. That has not reduced in me my feeling of window as that's a name which is also an object for me. That aspect of me, my knowing, my being, that has not reduced from me before the operation and after the operation. I went through the operation, no problem. Cancer was there, it was removed. But that has brought in restrictions compared to the earlier period. But that has not reduced my being or my own experience of I amness. So this way in which we look into our own body, everything in our body is objectifiable. And when it is objectifiable, definitely the body is not me. And I am knowing the body and its functions. But the only time when I am not knowing my body and its function is on when I am in deep sleep. At that time, I do not know what I am or I am whether I am or even the feeling that the individuality is also not experienced by me. So there is this method which is given in the Shastra to arrive at the first person as to who you are by this method of doing what is objectifiable or not you and what is the subject is what is the first person. The other method is what is neti neti is the same thing, but there it is not the body only. Everything, the same process is called the neti neti. The dridrishya process ending up is neti neti. Not this, I am not the body, I am not the hand, I am not the leg, I am not the eyes, I am not the ears. Like that when you can. You will definitely arrive at the first person in that method, but you need to do it intentionally when you are in you through your awareness. When that awareness, if there is something as a content of that awareness, you are not that. That is the only way we can arrive at the first person.
So for the first person, it's only going to be Drig.
Yes.
It can't be, yes. So my question was not how to arrive to the first person, but from the first person point of view, when somebody carefully observes what is it that is being identified, something is happening out there. What is it that can be identified? For me, there is only one possibility, which is anything which is happening, means ing, walking, talking, speaking, moving, hearing, all of those things are the only thing I can even remember. I cannot remember, I can remember that Bindoji spoke, but by just saying Bindoji spoke, the speech doesn't change. Speech is by itself is the only thing I can identify. So when I'm adding the extra information, to me, that was the feeling I had that Krishna is talking. Catch it at the root of it, and don't want to add additional information on top of it, because that is the only thing actually we are seeing. I cannot see Bindoji as a guru or as a person. These are all social roles. They are sort of framing the picture, but that is not the picture, right?
Mm.
So in that way, my worry is that there is so much we are negating. Like, okay, we can see the body. Now, when I say drop the body or negate the body, I have no means to see it being negated. There is no way that is even a possibility. So the trouble is that one is, or at least I feel like I can get busy with uh, um, removing the fly on the my face, which is not even yet arrived. You understand? So
Yeah.
that is the worry I'm talking about. And my solution to that, or where I'm looking for some help, is that is it true that in identification, only the least minimum, which is the pratyaksh, is the only available. There is no, all the rest are inferred
Mm.
or somehow added on top of that. I'm not saying those things are useless, they are useful in our society, but um, yes, is it so or is it not so? I mean,
So,
because yeah,
see, all the ing which you said is depending upon what we call it as instrument, upadhi. Walking, you need leg. Talking, you need tongue. Hearing, you need ears. Every ing is some instrument is required. Even thinking, mind is required. So the kriya, what you said, is dependent on the instruments. And the instruments by themselves are not capable of doing it without a volition on the part of the individuality, which we call it as the what jiva. But the jiva, or what we call it as the individuality, is based on the identification with the body. Otherwise, the jiva is not with the body. What happens is that even when we are saying an ing called knowing, that is happening in the intellectual level or the mental antakarana level. That knowing also you have to bifurcate into, divide into further. That is the subtlest, most thing which we can think, where there is instrument is not known to us, but at the same time there is a kriya of knowing or an action of knowing which is taking place. In that knowing, there is what you call an object which about which we are knowing. We, we or the I or the individual, whoever is knowing, is not the object in the knowing. That is the place where the pratyaksha or the sakshat, what we call it as, the awareness or the consciousness, which is called the knowledge of the knowing, the content. When the knowledge and the content come together, the action of knowing takes place. The object is definitely not part of the knowing until the knower becomes a part of the process. So when the content is separate, the subject is separate. Subject is from the individual point of view. But the individual is also an ideation or a feeling, which we call it as I am a limited individual, or I am. Today I was discussing with Patrick, it's not complete yet. That is also a different thing. But there is a space in which these two interact, that is the subject and object interact in a space. That space of knowing in which the subject and the object of knowing interact is called the consciousness, awareness, or knowledge. That aspect of knowledge, which is neither exclusively of the object nor exclusively of the subject, is independent and free, and it is not limited by time, space, or anything. What is limited by time, space, and everything is the subject and the object. but the space in which that is taking place, that awareness, only if that is there, the subject becomes the subject, the object becomes the object. Otherwise, neither the subject nor the object can have an independent existence. Therefore, the only reality is that space of knowledge or consciousness where the subject now takes place the role of a knower, and the object becomes the object of knowing. And these are assumed roles within the space itself. Without the space of knowing, neither the subject nor the object can independently exist, because they are not separate from the substratum. But I feeling that I am independent knower makes me the subject, and the one which I know becomes the object. Now suppose you become the object and I become the subject. The roles can be reversed. You become the subject and I become the object. So the same object and subject, if it can be interchanged, the interchanging only assuming the roles, they are not permanent. So the impermanency of the subject and the object has, when we remove it, what remains is the space of knowledge or awareness. And that is all that is there. But we transact, when the empirical transaction takes place, we assume the roles of subject, object, or knower and the known, etc. But in all this, just as we have only space, which is the thing. Without space, nothing can exist. Same way, without knowledge, there is no subject nor object.
Yes, thank you, Vinduji. I understand that space as the condition on which subject, object are happening and all the rest. So that is that is very clear, and the language how you use that these are the assumed roles. This is exactly what I initially was kind of asking. Can I see the world without the presence of the roles? Indirectly, you said that's the only way to
Hmm.
see the world. There is no
Yes,
other way.
no other way,
Yes,
because
yeah,
I have to transmit my thoughts into you. I have to use the words, so I am
yeah,
using those words. That's all.
yes. So, and I am connecting to the other question I had asked a while ago, about if maximum is the jiva becoming, what was that, Jivan Mukta, and
Hmm.
that's the maximum level. So I'm connecting to that for me, that is where I kind of stop, because for me, yeah, that's how I am seeing it. There is no way any, so yeah, I think you answered. So there is no way I, in any role, can reject my flesh as a role named as body. I
Hmm.
don't have the agency to reject any roles or
No,
accept any roles, right? So yeah,
no,
thank
you don't have. As long as we are using the instrument, we have the rules. If you are driving a car, you have to be called a driver. There is no choice. If you are riding a bicycle, you will be called a rider of a bicycle. Same way, if you are using the body for functioning in this world, you will be called a jiva. That's all.
you. What you talked about, the conditionality or the field or the space of knowledge which gives rise to the duality of subject object. In some kind of Buddhism, they call it uh, peripheral awareness of that knowledge. So you cannot look at the knowledge directly, you can peripherally be aware of it. Otherwise, it will become again the content. So Yeah, something like that. So I hope that makes any sense here.
Yeah,
But anyways, thank you.
thank you, Madhu. Namaste, Abhishek.
There's nobody coming up. I have a follow-up question. Oh, Arian is coming up. I'll let Arian speak and then I will follow.
Oh, Prakash, you can go ahead if it follows the previous question. It's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to go?
Yes, yeah. So, Binduji, the Sravana Manana Nididhyasana, in one of the earlier sessions, you have carefully, elaborated on the nuances about Sravana Manana happening together and the intricacies of the Manana and what is Nididhyasana. So when you are engaged in all kinds of activity, but you're also on a regular basis participating in this process. So do you see any progression that the student or a practitioner can find a signpost of clarity where there is no need for certain repetitions in terms of effort?
Hmm.
Just wanted to ask you that question.
It definitely, Prakash. It is just like that. Uh, the initial effort which we put while we were learning bicycling to get the balance was a very difficult thing. All the time we will be either, you know, using the right leg or left leg on the floor so that we don't fall. To keep on pedaling or pushing and again taking balance and everything. And then we balance with our hip slowly as we progress. And then at a time will come when we are without any difficulty we are bicycling, and it can come even to an extent that we can leave the handle without holding it and then still balance the cycle and even take turns in the bicycle as we progress in our expertise in the cycling. Now this is a very crude example. It all shows that you are getting finer aspects of balancing in the bicycling. That is how we learned it. Same way in the balancing of life, when we are leading multi-role character using this body as the cycle, we are balancing different roles which we are being played. But a person who is interested in the spiritual path, he will be using this body for the different roles. At the same time, his concentration and need for attention will be to practice what he has learned in the pedagogy through applications of in the different roles. There will be bricks and bats both which will be coming in the path. And in that dichotomy of bricks and bats in the roles which we are playing, to find the balance and remain steadfast in the consciousness or awareness of every experience is what is called the application of Shravana Manana Nididhyasana as a practitioner. Every experience, whichever role we are playing, whether we are teaching or we are living or we are, you know, doing various roles in our life, The roles has no not potency to become an impediment in our spiritual life unless we get carried away by the outcome and drop our balancing. That is what Krishna says, that when you have the attention on the fruit of action, we lose our balance in life. That is why in the initial stages, the fruits of action is the first one which we have to do away with. And when we have that, we are neither the roles which we are playing in the multi-role life which we are used to, we become aware of our, what you call, the pratibodha, the role of a human being which we are rolling, which we are living. Ultimately, we'll know that even that thing, the thought that I am a human being is a thought in the process, identifying with the body. The thought or the awareness doesn't have a humanity in it. Awareness is awareness. So when we are able to move away from the multi-role to that level, is what the role of the akarta, what has been told by Krishna in the Gita. We are not the doer. Every doership and everything is on the, depending upon the instruments in which the activity is going on. We are that energy, or we are that source in the knowledge of which every activity seems to be happening. So then we move from the Shravana to Manana and Manana to Nididhyasana in the process. And when we are fully convinced that we are non-doer, the non-doer or the non-doership is our true nature, we do not have to worry about in the multi-engaged life at all. In all the life or all activity, it happens because I am identifying with the body, or the body is the one which is acting. I am the non-doer who is aware of the body being in action of different roles. You become the, what you call, Pandita or the Jivan Mukta.
Thank you very much, Bindoji. This mic is.
Yes, thank you. Oh gosh, I have a few things to say, but I'll leave the comment in the text last. I really have tried. I don't actually understand Sri Ramana Maharshi's method very well, I must admit. And when I do try to be more aware or witness my life, it's just in instances, and then I go back to what Mandir, talks about being identified with the action or the object. I just cannot sustain my efforts, and more than that, I can't even remember them a lot of the time. Maybe you'd say that's due to the sanskaras, that I don't have the capacity yet, but I also feel like I don't really understand the method well enough to break through to the next level, where I could, where my efforts would be more frequent, deeper, and more expansive, more frequent.
It is just like this, Aryan. The forgetting is not a bad thing or a negative thing. Neither of it. Do we have to remember that we are human beings at all the time? We don't have to. But in and every activity of ours, whether we remember or we do not remember, it is all based on the conviction that I am a human being. Even though I am not a human being, my conviction is that I am a human being. So my activity is all the time based on the I am a human being. That nature of conviction with the identity as a human being is the exact conviction when we have the conviction that I am not even the human being, not even the body, I am the knower of the body, the awareness. When it becomes same level of conviction that I am a human being to the same level that I am in the awareness who is aware of even the human body and the human nature of the body. Once that conviction happens, then the functions of the body and its nature of the body being used by the awareness will not affect us. We remember or we do not remember doesn't make it. Just as we do not remember we are human being or not doesn't affect our performance as a human being. Same way, the performance as we are the awareness will not get affected whether we remember it or we do not remember it, because that has become a reality for us. So to arrive at that, it is not the Ramana Maharshi's method or Nisargadatta Maharaj, it is a plain simple thing. This very moment we are awareness and we are functioning as a human being, thinking that we are a human being. All that is required is to shift our identity as a human being to that of that awareness, which is even aware of the human body being functional. That is simply said, but it is not difficult. It is just what you call the aha moment when you shift takes place, and then there is no need for you to worry about it, because there is nothing to be worried about. Even the mind doesn't become you don't become even the mind to worry. Even the worry becomes an object of my reality.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You are the first person who says in my life I'm not a human being. That is such a relief. So part of the issue for some of us is that when you teach, you use a lot of Sanskrit words, and the conversation goes quickly, and I lose the capacity to follow because some of these words I don't know. So just this is happening, and I still would like to understand these different methods. I think they're useful, but I don't know what you mean when you say um, Shramana Marana or whatever it is. I don't know what that word is and what that connotes. Could you just say what that is, and then I'll ask my other
Okay.
question.
Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. These are the three words. Shravana means listening. It is not hearing, but listening. Manana is a mentation, or what you have heard, what you have listened to. You are doing an analysis mentally, the correctness, the applicability, the validity, where it can remove the ignorance and misapprehensions which are available in our mind. Most of it is doubt, in the form of doubt. All the three can get reduced when you continuously do a mental process of analyzing what you have heard. And when this reduces the doubt, the misapprehension, etc., you are moving towards the conviction of the reality or the truth what you have heard is undoubtedly the fact which is talking about my own true nature or the self. And when that becomes the conviction, you are landing in that conviction which I said we are not even a human being, that we are the awareness. That conviction is the final result, what we call it as nididhyasana. The word nididhyasana comes from fixation in the identification of the individuality's nature of reality. So you listen to it first, then second stage is analyzing, and the third is the fixation part. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. These are the three stages of the process of becoming what you have heard.
Prakash, could you just write them in the chat for us? Just have the pity to write them in the chat, please. Spell them. Thank you.
Sure. I'll put that.
Generally, I would appreciate that for these
Okay.
words because
Sure.
it's really hard for a lot of us. So Bindu,
Yes.
yeah, I mentioned in the chat when I first came in that in the Western religions, since the time of Christianity, um, the religions started talking about love because the last 3 years of Jesus's life, Jesus and the Christ, his teacher, Maitreya, were working together and trying to bring humanity to the next level by enacting this huge drama, which was both a historical event and symbolic of what it means to go to the next level in one's spiritual development, in which one basically bears the weight of one's own karma and takes it up, does not resist that, and uses it to approach God more closely in a one more of a like a one-to-one relationship. It's really a relational kind of religion, the I and thou religion. There's a sense of love. God is love, but in the West we don't have yet the sense of love is a state of consciousness. And I just, I was listening to your talk last week with um, Patrick and Srini, and I couldn't totally follow it, to be honest, because I didn't understand all the words. But uh, it seems like it's related to this thing where when we think about God as love, God is love, and love doesn't have polarity. It doesn't have an opposite, so it's includes everything. It's omnipresent, it's infinite, it's omnipotent. That it in a way that relates to your conversation last week, in that God is not in a way the negativity that we see pervading around us, but it includes that, something like that it's part of that, like the mirage in the desert. It is an experience. Perhaps it's a faulty perception, but it is an experience that humans have. So it's part of um, the realm of experience. It exists. Many humans have had it. Many humans have had it throughout time. So we know that it's not just um, uh, hallucination only, because it can be repeated, right? It's a phenomena, scientific phenomena also. So I guess what I would say is that if we were to think about God or Atman in a more relational way, would that allow one to say that that it is inclusive of all those things, the vrittis or the appearances, but it's not equal to that. I don't know if that's useful or not, but that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, Aryan, the classification of religion and the path each religion has taken is more based on the human need and the conditions under which humanity has been given to believe about a power external and controller type of a thing. Advaita, which I am talking about, and I'm referring to the Upanishads and Gita, based on the teaching of Shankaracharya. We do not touch anything about religion at all. It is relatable to every creation in this world and can be accessed only people who have intelligence in it. The reason being that is we are not talking about ordinary experience or the mental, intellectual or the individuality based activity, but the truth beyond the manifestation. So the terminology is called love, hatred, or you know, omniscience, omnipotency. All of them are within the realm of manifestation. But that from where the manifestation appear to have taken place or appear to be effective is what is being addressed, because if we know the source and if the source is what is appearing as many, the appearance of many do not make the many different from the source. Examples which we always quote is that gold and the ornament, or the water and the multi appearances of waves, drops, rain, etc. All of them are to give us an example that there is only one reality which is now appearing in names and forms as multitude. But the reality of the names and forms of multitude is not separate from the reality from which these appearances seems to have taken place. By appearing many doesn't lose the ornaments have not lost the gold nature of them. Same way, the multiple objects, experiences, and the world of multitude is not different from that one from which it appears to have got the reality in them. So the reality of the multitude is exactly the reality of that source which is also real. Whether you call it as truth, real, awareness, consciousness, name doesn't matter. But if we can experience that or we can understand that the reality in the multitude is the reality of that one. Same just as everything is in the space and it is space which is inside, outside and the object. Without space, the object cannot have no location, no locus standi. That way is the same way the truth which is now appearing as a multitude in this world. Once it has become multitude, the interrelation between the multitude has got different names like love, hatred, ownership, subservient. Like that, all those are related words which we have coined for the purpose of empirical transactions. They themselves are dependent on the reality of the objects inside the transaction. Without that, without the two, there is no question of love itself existing. The love is existing because there are two. The hatred is existing because there are two. Same way, everything in the empirical world is existing because there is two, multitude. Two, duality means multitude. But Advaita is not interested in the multitude. It is telling that the multitude is only for transactional purpose. Your reality and the reality of the multitude which you are experiencing are not separate. They are one and the same. And when we know that there is no separation between yourself or myself and this world, we need not unnecessarily get into love, hatred, or any of these type of a transactional dependencies. They are all one and the same. And when I do not have the second or the otherness, I have nothing to be afraid of. I am not experiencing an increase or decrease to compare with because everything becomes one. In that unity, there is no gradation or no height and low. There is only unison and oneness. And that oneness itself is what is called the infinity or the bliss of infinity. This is the fundamental reality what is being taught by Advaita. So whether we call it as whether there is religion in this world, multi-religion in this world, all those things are from transactional empirical point of view. Advaita is not interested in that because that is not what the Advaita is interested. Interested in that elimination of the otherness. When the otherness is eliminated, there is nothing to be afraid of. You are in a state of absolute freedom. The freedom is not because there is something which is restricting you. The freedom is in the knowledge that there is no second one to restrict me. And that itself is my infinity nature. And that is my nature of my happiness also.
Yeah, I think that is helpful, and but also that's what I was saying is that in the West, and this is more than just a religion. This is a cultural thing. This pervades everything. I was not born Christian. This is part of the way we be because of our understanding everything.
Yes.
But it lacks that part which is non-relational, more abstract. Like when you see in some churches where there are lots of images of saints or Jesus or Mary or whatever, and then in other churches it looks like a courthouse. There's nothing, almost. So things go towards the more abstract. The Protestants, without the images, they talked about having a personal relationship to God, that you didn't need an intermediary. This was a big shift in history. And we're moving towards the East, that God and love is a state of consciousness, is a vibration. It's the field, it's the domain, it's the screen on which the movie is played. It's that. But for many of us, it's so abstract and it's so ephemeral and it's so hard to achieve on a moment to moment basis. I mean, I've been in schools, I've had teachers where they've taught me methods, and I've been, like you said, the casual student, not from the point of knowledge, because I've studied things, but from the point of capacity. And I think what you said today was very, very helpful, that I just have to shift my identity from being a human to not being a human. I think that is really, really very,
Yeah,
very helpful indeed.
that's right. Thank you, Aryan.
Thank you.
Prakash, can you stop?
Yes, Bindoji. Again, another very in-depth and productive discussion on a Sunday. So we'll reconvene tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. IST, Monday, 8:30 p.m. IST, where we will continue with the Bhagavad Gita classes. As I mentioned earlier, the replays are available. You can access them in Clubhouse. You can go to the YouTube channel Advaita Retold. There is also links from Apple Podcast and Spotify. There's also another book published by Artemisia, who's with us today, called The Imaginary Door, which is published on Amazon based on Bindoji's insights into Advaita. And as always, Bindoji, very clearly reminds us the consistency of Sravana Manana Nididhyasana is an important tool that we have to kind of master during that process. And as always, thanks everyone for coming and participating. And a heartfelt thank you to Bindoji for guiding us into this deep process of revealing what Advaita is. Pranams, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Atmosphere. Thank you, Aryan. Thank you, Madhur, for your questions. And thank you, all of you, for your chats and being present here. We'll meet tomorrow for the Bhagavad Gita classes. Until then, Aryan, good night.